Okay, welcome to today's Mozy webinar. We will be discussing managing machines, data and resources with Mozy Pro. My name is Naif Fahy. I will be your instructor for today. I'm the EMEA Technical Education Specialist at Mozy. So I train both our internal employees, and I also go on site training our agent partners and customers on the Mozy product suite, both around EMEA and outside of North America in general. Okay, the overview of today's webinar will be managing machines, data and resources with Mozy Pro. We'll just cover some slides on what the topics I will be discussing, and then the majority of the time I will actually go through examples of the actual topics we'll cover. The webinars are an ongoing process. This is our fifth webinar, and they're generally run on the third Wednesday of every month. Once we finish today, once I finish my presentation, there'll be a Q&A session, and the video itself of the webinar will be posted on community.mozy.com in the blog section. Okay, so just to move on, an overview on Mozy Pro. So Mozy Pro is designed for business users, so they can manage their backups and data from the web. Some of the functions of this web-based admin console include and are not limited to managing users, so setting up, adding users to your organization, managing machines, so managing individual parts of the user's machines and how much quota they can use on their machine, whether they have the option for web restores, etc. Managing groups would be setting up individual groups for, say, a sales department, a marketing department, accounting, finance, so you can give separate groups different permissions and different roles so that they can back up different things. So, for example, an accounting or finance department might be backing up a lot of Excel files, but you might necessarily want them to be backing up music files. Using different backup configurations, you can limit what each group can back up. It also covers managing licenses and storage quota, and that's one of the topics we'll be discussing today. This is not a full list of what the admin console can do, but it's just to give you a rough idea. So some definitions, just as topics that are just words that I'll be using as I go through, just to give some clarity on what I mean by those words. An administrator to us in Mozy is somebody who is assigned to look after the Mozy Pro account, so they're designated to manage the actual account of your company. So it can be, depending on if it's a small organization, it may be just yourself, the owner of the company. To a large organization, they might have somebody in their IT department looking after this. The user is someone that's assigned to manage a machine that has been backed up by Mozy Pro. So again, that can be any list of employees. They would each be an individual user who will be looking after their own machine. Resources. These are the licenses, storage quota, and machines that are used by Mozy Pro. So we refer to them as resources. So again, that can be conflicting and depending on what you might use the word as meaning in your own day-to-day work. Just as well on license types, we have two license types within Mozy. So the two license types are desktop licenses and server licenses. A desktop license is designed for desktop and laptop computers for backing up office documents, pictures and media files. A desktop license is designed to use basically on an operating system like Windows 7, XP, Vista. A desktop license, if you attempt to use it on a server operating system like Windows Server 2003 or 2008, a desktop license will not work on that OS. So a part of the installation process if you attempt to use a desktop key on a server, it will recognize that when going through the registration process from when the computer tries to connect to our servers to confirm the key, it will recognize that it's on a server operating system and it won't work. Then a server key is designed specifically for server operating systems, but unlike the desktop key, it actually can work on a desktop as well. The reason being that we have additional options for backing up things that are specific to a server, in terms of the likes of Exchange databases, SQL databases. So that's why you would need a specific key for a server OS. Also, if you're attempting to back up a NAS device, a network attached storage device, you will need to use a server license. Okay, so just in terms of accessing the admin console, so to log into the admin console, you can use any one of the three options you see on your screen. So https secure.mozy.com/login will take you to the exact same place as mozy.com/login or mozypro.com/login. They both will redirect you to the same page. From this admin login, only the administrator will be able to access your account. You can have more than one administrator per account. You can just create sub-admins. It's not a topic we'll be covering today. So, what can the admin console do? So the admin console has many features and is quite powerful. So some of the things you can do with the admin console are the likes of purchasing resources, so licenses, storage quota. You can create and manage groups of users and machines. You can create and manage administrators, transfer resources between groups and users, and create reports of backups, usage, etc. You can also restore users' files from the admin console, and there's a lot of other functionality as well within the admin console, but what we will be targeting here today will be the likes of transferring resources and managing resources within the admin console. For further documentation on the admin console, it can be found in our documentation area. There is a section there specifically for Mozy administrators, and it's well worth checking out. That's on the support.mozy.com. You can get there through our documentation section. There's also a tutorial area there. There's a lot of short 5-minute videos on specific subjects and various functions of the admin console, including restoring files and like file selection and etc. So that is well worth checking out, that section of our support function. So to look into what we're going to cover today, replacing the machines. So to replace a machine that has previously backed up a Mozy Pro with a new or different computer. So basically you simply run the installer on the new machine. So you download the software to a new machine using the same license key and username and password that you would have used on the previous machine. You will be prompted to replace the machine. So that's basically you will be in the situation where you would lose your existing machine. For example, if the hard drive crashed, or if if for theft, you then would be able to install Mozy on a new laptop using your old license key and your username and password. You will be able to replace your old machine and be able to access the documents that you would have backed up on that previously. Restoring data on a new machine. Okay, so after replacing a machine, you may want to put the data from the previous machine onto the new one. We recommend to do this on the new machine after the installation of the Mozy Pro software. You can do this using the Restore section of the settings window of the Mozy Pro software. So it's just important to remember to set the date back to the last successful backup date of the machine that has been replaced. So today is the 23rd. If your machine's last successful backup was on the 18th, it's important to remember that once you replace the machine, to change the date and go back to the 18th and restore your files from there, as they would mean the most recent backup of files for yourself. Okay, so using the admin console to manage resources. The admin console is designed to make using your Mozy Pro software efficient and effective. One of the primary tasks of Mozy Pro administrators is making sure that resources such as license keys and storage quota on machines are monitored. So we'll actually go through a demonstration now of how to replace a machine. So I'm going to pop out of this slide deck. Okay, and I'm just going to open up down here. So what I'm going to do is launch the setup wizard here. So this is replacing a machine. So for example, my machine's after being stolen. I'm now after purchasing a new laptop and I'm installing Mozy, the Mozy software, onto my new laptop, but I want to retrieve the files that I would have backed up previously. So I'm just going to take my old license key, I'm going to pop that in there, and my email address. I'm going to pop that in there. I'm going to go to next. It's going to check the license key. As you can see here, just here it says this license key was previously used on this computer. So that was the previous machine that was being backed up. And it'll tell you your files from your previous computer will be available for 30 days. So I want to put in my password. Click next. It will give you a pop-up to inform you that your computer is being replaced. Your old computer will no longer be backed up, but you can restore files from it. And it'll then prompt you, are you sure you want to replace? Once you click replace, your old machine will now be shown as deleted within your admin console, but you're still able to retrieve your files for the next 30 days from that. So you just click yes. It goes through the logging in procedure. And just go through then retrieving file records, just scanning your system to see what files are there. And this will just take a couple of seconds, but as that's happening, so basically what's happening now is we've replaced our old machine. We're now going to use this machine going forward, and I'm going to restore my files from the old machine. Okay, so I just go to next, and I want to open up my settings window. So once my setting window opens up, I want to open up the Restore tab. So I open the Restore tab. I select my machine from here. Okay. So I want to select search by date. And as this has only been backed up once today, I only have today as is my latest date. But as I said previously, if it was a situation where your machine, your most recent backup on your machine was, say, the 18th, which was last Friday, you would select the 18th. And then you would select your files. You select here from the left-hand pane what your files were. So you just go down, select what files you want from your desktop. If you're happy with that file selection, or if you want to restore all your files, you select from the root there, select all your files. You want to come down here to where you want to restore them to. Browse, and you can select where you want to restore them to. So you may want to restore them, say, to your desktop or to your My Documents folder, somewhere that's quick and easy for you to access them. So in this instance, I'm just going to restore this document from my drive. I'm going to save it to my desktop. Okay, and I'm going to rename copy if original file exists. So if I have an existing file on my new machine already that has the same name as that, we're in the location I'm saving it to, it's going to rename it, so it's probably going to call it FAQs _1 or just 1. Once I'm happy with my file selection, I just want to click Restore Files. The restore will begin. So it'll find the files on the servers, and because that was only a small file, it's going to restore pretty quickly. Obviously, if you're restoring larger amount of data, it's going to take that bit longer. But because that was a small file, it carried it out pretty quick. As you can see, here is where it has created the file. So it creates, when you restore a file, it puts it into the file structure that it was in previously. So as you can see, it's not just saved the FAQs document directly onto the desktop as just another Word document. It's actually put it into its own folder in its file structure. So I go to C drive, users, Nile, desktop, and there it is, my file restored. So if you were restoring from here, if you're restoring your entire C drive, you would obviously get the folder directly from the top, and that'd be your entire C drive. If you're restoring files and folders within the hierarchical structure, so for example here, OEM partner training, when I go look for that, I need to be sure that I'm not looking for that folder on my desktop or in the location that I've saved it to. I need to find the C folder it's after creating in the area that I've selected to restore to. So that is just on replacing a machine. If there are any questions on replacing a machine, please feel free to put them into the question section, and I will get to them at the end. It's a very straightforward procedure. Once you have the software downloaded, you just use your existing password, your existing username, license key and password, and it gives you the option. It prompts you to replace the machine, as we went through, and then you just need to come in here to settings and to restore your files. Now, you don't have to restore your files straight away. They will be there for 30 days, but it is recommended that you do it straight away so that you don't forget about it, or you don't run over and you don't end up losing files that you might need going forward. So it is recommended that you do it relatively soon after you decide to replace the machine. Okay, so that was restoring data and replacing a machine. So resources in the admin console. Okay, so I'll show you here. So this is my admin console. Okay, so as I was saying, that was our restore, replacing a machine and the restore function. I just went through there. Again, apologies for the network issue I had. So now I'm going to show you how to manage resources within the admin console. So you should be now able to see my admin console. So the section we're going to be focusing on is this section down here on the left, so resources. So what I'll do is I'll go through them, each one, and then I will go through machines, and then we'll move to the Q&A. Okay, so purchasing resources, this is obviously a straightforward one. If you do choose one purchasing resources, you can choose within the purchase resource section from here a user group you can assign them to. So in this sense, if you want to assign, if you're purchasing resources for a specific group, this makes it a lot easier than having to go in and transfer resources at a later date, which is something I'll go through in a minute. But here you select your user group you want. So you select what it is the resources you require. So one license key, and say maybe you need 20 gigs of server storage. You submit that. Within here then it will give you the breakdown of the costs, and then you enter your credit card details and you submit, and that purchase goes through, and then the resources are then added to your you'll then be able to add any resources. They will be added to your user group. Okay, so that's purchasing resources. It's straightforward enough, but if there's any questions on it, again, pop them into the question section and we can have a look at them towards the end. Okay, in terms of billing information, it's straightforward enough. It just gives you your next renewal date, in what period you're in either a biennial contract or a yearly one, and the date of the renewal, the amount, and it'll give you the information on the last 4 digits of your credit card. It also brings you a breakdown of what it is you're purchasing and where the costs are. Your billing history just gives you a history of purchases and charges to your credit card. So again, they're straightforward enough, those ones. Changing payment information, again, is just if you need to change your credit card for if it expired or for any other reason. Assigning keys. So this is where you can assign keys to users. So if you come in here, it'll give you the option to select a user group from which you want to distribute your keys. So again, for example, if you have your organization split up into user groups in terms of accounting, marketing, engineering, in that way, shape or form, you can select from here the user group you wish. So for my example, I'm going to select the API test. I'm going to click submit, That then gives me the license keys and the quota that is available to me for that user group. If this is not the user group I want, I can go back up here to select different group, and I can go through. I come back to the original screen and I can select a new group. So from here, to assign a key, in this section here, email to, you fill in the user's email address. So in this case, I'll use example at mozy.com. It's a desktop key, and I want to assign that person 2 gigs of quota. I have 2 options. So I can assign the key here, and that just assigns the key, and then I can go ahead myself and email the user his license key, or he or she's license key, and give them their user email for it. Or you can click this option here. Clicking this option and then clicking assign sends an email directly to the customer, directly to your user, saying, welcome to Mozy Pro, you've been assigned an account, here is your license key, and here's a link to download the Mozy client. That will then, the user then can install it themselves and get up to speed themselves. If it's a situation where you have a centralized IT going around installing the client on users' machines, then maybe you don't need to send the emails. If they have access to this section, they themselves can just come in and take a copy of the key and set it up. And you can also perform a batch key assignment from here. That sends out all your keys to your various email addresses. So transfer resources is the next section, and this is the section I mentioned earlier, that if you were purchasing resources, that sometimes maybe it is easier to select the group that you want to purchase for initially. If not, if it's after the situation and you have purchased extra storage or quota for a particular user group that you're not using on that user group, you can always transfer it to a group where you need the resources, so that it's not sitting there and it's not being used within that group. So what you do is you select your source user group. So for example, I have this user group here has 11 licenses and 331 gigabytes of storage, and I want to transfer some storage to API test, because it has licenses but it has no storage quota. I then select what it is I want to transfer. So if it's server licenses, I select how many of the server licenses I want to transfer. If it's desktop licenses, I select how many desktop licenses I want to transfer, and the same with storage. And once you're happy with that, you just click continue. It then moves the storage that I want from group 1, which is unwashed, to my second group, API test, and I then have storage within that group to continue on. So I didn't have to purchase more storage or more quota or licenses for that group. I just transferred resources that I already had paid for and were sitting there and weren't being used. On the other side of that, if you go along and you purchase too much quota, maybe when you started and you signed up and you thought maybe, okay, I'm going to be backing up my Exchange database, I need 100 gigs, and you purchase 100 gigs and you purchase your license for it, But then afterwards, once you're backing up for a couple of weeks, you see that your Exchange database is not as big as you previously thought. You then say it's 75 gigs, and you leave, it's not growing by much on a regular basis. You then have the option to return unused resources. So if you say you had 75 gigs backing up, you want to leave 5 gigs for safety, so that's 80 gigs, but you're paying for 100 gigs, you don't need that extra 20 gigs. You just return whatever resource you want. So you can select a specific user group, or you can select from anywhere of all your user groups. It'll tell you how much you have unused. You fill in how much you want to return, click continue, and that storage or those licenses are returned. And that's counted against your next billing period, then is reduced, and it's seen that you no longer require your 100 gigs of storage going forward. You only need 80. In terms of managing machines, just on if you have quota and you have a user who has reached their limit on quota. So just want to open up users. So you open up the list. So if you come up here on the left and search list users, select the user you want. So in my case, I've selected Jonathan B here on the training accounts, and I can see from here Jonathan has 1.2 gigabytes used of 11 gigabytes of storage. Now, there's two scenarios. If it was a situation where Jonathan was using 10.8 gigabytes of data and he's expected to use more and I need to give him more space, I just click here on change. Once I click in the box, it'll tell me how much the max I can give him. So I can increase it to 12 or 13 gigabytes or 15 gigabytes, and once I save it, it'll be done. In this situation that we have in front of us, Jonathan has 11 gigabytes assigned to him, but he's only using 1.2 gigabytes. So what I can do is change it from here and say give Jonathan 5 gigabytes. The quota is changed, and now Jonathan only has 5 gigabytes of data of space to back up, and I have freed up 6 gigabytes that I may be able to use on a user that needs that quota more than Jonathan did. Or alternatively, I can return that quota, excess quota that I didn't need. So that's pretty much it on managing resources. If there's anybody has any questions now, please type them into the question area, and I'll answer them as best as I can. And if I can't answer them, I will get the answers for you. So thank you for joining today, and if there's any questions, just let me know. Okay, so Kara's question, can I create groups after the machines are added? Yes, you can. So if you have machines that are added, once you have a machine that is added, all you need to do to assign that user to a group afterwards is open up the user. As you can see here with Jonathan, his user group is unwashed. If there's no user groups set up before you set up the user, they're automatically sent to a default user group. If afterwards you create your user groups, all you need to do is come in here to the user, change, search the user group you want, and click submit. Jonathan then will be added to that new user group. I hope that answers your question. Okay, Brenda's question, in the tutorials section of support.mozy.com, you will find some very good tutorials on setting up and installing Mozy, and what files to back up and what files not to back up are also included. Okay, in relation to Paul's question, when different versions of the same files are backed up, say over the course of a work week, do all copies of all versions count towards the quota or just the most recent version? So what counts towards your quota, Paul, is when you back up. So if I start to back up now and I back up 10 gigs, and then in 2 hours time I run another backup and I'm backing up 8 gigs, so I've deselected files. The 8 gigs counts towards my quota, and the 10 gigs that I had previously backed up stay on our servers for 30 days. So the files that I deselected for backup stay on our servers for 30 days, and if they're not added in again, they're removed from our servers. So it's only your most recent backup and how much space you use on that backup is what counts towards your quota. We don't count the historical copies of your data towards your quota. I hope that answers your question. If not, just let me know and I can go into it further. Yeah, no problem. So I'm just going to show you that there now. So if, for example, you are adding a user, they get automatically assigned to a default user group. What you need to do then, if you create a user group afterwards, is come up here, search this users, find your user you want to look for, open them up. They'll open up down here like this. See, under user group it will have default user group. If you then, for example, want to change them, click change, click the magnifying glass. It will give you a list of your groups that you have. So you can have whatever user group you're breaking it down into. So for this, what we'll do is we're going to put it into Craig's machines, and then you're just going to submit. And now, as you can see, Craig's Jonathan is after being added to the user group Craig's machines. So now he is part of that user group. And it would be the same instance if he was in the default user group. You could move him into that new Craig's machines user group. And this counts for also if you have somebody internal who moves departments. So if somebody moves from finance to accounting, or moves from finance to engineering, crazily enough, then you can also switch their user group from there. So if their job develops and they move to a different role, you can change the user group as well. Okay, so if there's no new questions, I think we can leave it there. Again, thank you for joining our webinar, Mozy webinar today. And we will be hosting another webinar next month, more likely again the third Wednesday. We'll go back to the third Wednesday of the month from next month. So thank you once again for joining us today. We hope you have got some valuable knowledge from it. And again, feel free to mail me questions. Okay, thank you.